Content-Light E-Learning, Less is More, Sustainable and Constructivist Practice, a presentation by Ian Robertson to the E-Learning Symposium 2007 at RMIT University Melbourne on the 9th till 11th of December. It would be difficult to argue with the contention that the use of online technology to support teaching and learning has not undergone significant change in the last 2 decades. Recently, the term e-learning 2.0 has been coined to recognise the change from a focus on content delivery, which characterised e-learning 1.0, to a greater focus on the use of network computers for collaboration, communication and content creation. The purpose of this short presentation is to argue that there have been 3 generations of what has become known as e-learning. The aim is not to promote a change in existing terminology, but rather to promote the idea of content-light e-learning, that is, less is more. In Australia, one of the first programs to use online technology in a substantial way to support distributed learning was a joint initiative of Box Hill Institute of TAFE and Deakin University in the form of the Diploma Bachelor of Applied Science Technology Management in 1991. This award-winning pre-World Wide Web program used online technology for computer-based testing and electronic mail. Participants were allocated tutors and provided with print-based learning materials. With the availability of the Internet, World Wide Web and learning management systems, second generation or e-learning 1.0 emerged. This model became characterised as content-thick or content-rich, depending on how it's interpreted. In 1996, the first version of a web-based learning management system, which became known as WebCT, was developed by the University of British Columbia and became available. This World Wide Web compatible system included functionalities that allowed teacher developers to produce course content, create quizzes, bulletin boards and use electronic mail. WebCT became the benchmark system for online learning in the field of education. In the Australian Vocational Education and Training System, support for content development is demonstrated by the development of Australian Flexible Learning Toolbox products, the first of which were released in 1999, and supported by more than $18 million in funding between 2000 and 2003. Over time, the design of these e-learning products has changed as a result of evaluation processes. These have been reported elsewhere. In addition, state and territory governments and individual organisations funded development of online learning materials that were also content-thick. For example, in Victoria, the state government established the TAFE Virtual Campus, RMIT University supported the development of the DLS, and similar initiatives can be identified in many other educational institutions. From a management perspective, the allure of technological solutions, along with ill-founded promises of cost savings and increased markets, led to the uncritical promotion and adoption of the use of online technology for the distribution of content. In reality, this content-heavy approach is manifest by high capital and recurrent costs associated with development and maintenance, along with slow adoption by teaching practitioners. Ultimately, this was an industrial solution to a pedagogical problem. More recently, we have seen the emergence of a third generation of e-learning, commonly referred to as e-learning 2.0. That is, the use of online technology to support communication, collaboration, and knowledge building rather than the distribution of content. Partly, this has been enabled by increased communications capabilities and the development of social software technologies such as blogs, wikis, and virtual classrooms. In addition to technical developments, the shift to e-learning 2.0 also represents an acknowledgement of the limitations of the behaviourist approach which is preferenced by e-learning 1.0 and a support for constructivist models. From a management perspective, it represents an acknowledgement of the unsustainability of content-rich e-learning, which has high maintenance costs. Therefore, we have seen three generations of e-learning. First generation e-learning, prior to the general availability of the Internet and World Wide Web, was limited in technical capability, access and scope. It was used largely for assessment and communications. That is, although content may have been provided in other forms, primarily print, first generation e-learning was content light. Second generation e-learning emerged with the general availability of the Internet, World Wide Web and learning management systems. Generally referred to as e-learning 1.0, in application this model became characterized as content thick or content rich. Third generation e-learning has emerged with the popularization of technologies such as blogs and wikis. Often referred to as e-learning 2.0, this model is largely promoted on the basis that it is a more constructivist approach and is more pedagogically sound than the previous behaviourist and content-rich approach. This presentation is driven by a teacher-practitioner perspective. When surveyed, teachers consistently identify a lack of time, resources and technical skills amongst other factors as barriers to the implementation of e-learning. A survey of Australian vocational teachers has shown that the longer that an online functionality has been available, the simpler the technology is to use, and the more compatible that the technology is with existing practices and needs, the more likely that the technology will be used frequently. The same research shows that functionalities that leave the locus of control over the selection of content, communications, sequence, pace and assessment criteria with the teacher, the more likely that the online functionality will be used more regularly. The implication of these findings is that at a systems level the introduction of e-learning is more likely to be sustainable if the model of introduction is consistent with these criteria. When the issue of capital expenditure for the development of content-thick e-learning and recurrent costs associated with the maintenance of this content are also considered, there is a strong argument that content-light e-learning is not only more pedagogically sound, but also more financially sustainable. That is, less is more.